Welcome to the Success Resequencing Project. I'm Debbie Ponticus.
And I'm Jen Newman.
Join us as we challenge the traditional definitions of success so you can build a fulfilling path of your own.
Get ready for inspired, candid conversations while gaining tools, inspiration, and confidence to create your own authentic success story.
Sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands to make big changes that can move the dial in your life or business. And today's guest shares how she believes you have to take the risk when an opportunity presents itself or you lose the chance. Heather Locke, the founder and chief support officer of Hammersmith Support, a website design and development company, has built her business by listening to her inner voice and trusting her gut when it tells her it's time for more. Today, she will share her story and her passion for personal and professional development as tools to stay grounded and balanced. Hey, Heather. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
thank
we
you.
are. So I'm going to jump in real quick and just give our audience a little bit of background for you before we kind of start our little chat. So you were born and raised in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yes.
Yes, this is the part where it's like, yes, you got that
this is
correct.
true or false.
True or false.
Uh-huh.
You always wanted to kind of move west. You were in Tennessee. You always kind of wanted to move west. And so after graduating college, you found a job out here in this market and you knew some friends that were moving out to Phoenix. So you said, well, why not? Let's head west. So you did. And now you've been in Phoenix for over 20 years now, worked in the website design and development industry on projects for clients, including Subway, Disney, HBO, and Target. So you've got lots of great clients that you've worked with. And then about 13 years ago, right after you had your daughter, you took your skills and you created Hammersmith Support.
That's correct.
Yay. And that is a website design and development company. And you do SEO as well. And you have about 15 people that work for you today. And you serve over 150 active clients in many different industries, including medical technologies, nonprofits, real estate, branding, law, coaching. And that's just to name a few.
You make it sound so good.
Well, it's all you. You did all that. So congratulations and welcome. And we're so excited to have you here today. And one of the things that we are really wanting to focus on is your story is so compelling. And it's going to really, I think, resonate with a lot of people because of the initiative you've taken in your path and the voice that you have. You know, those are two of our core pillars, which is initiative and using your voice. And we think that, you know, as you know, with the Success Resequencing Project, we say, you know, your path is your own and things are not linear, and that everyone has a story to tell. And so we're excited that you're joining us today to kind of tell our audience about your story and some of the things that you have experienced on your path and journey.
Well, thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So let's talk about, you know, that whole idea of that every story has value. You know, I know that you've mentioned to us that that's something that you feel is important. So talk to us about why that's so important to you.
Well, I think that, you know, as you're developing your career, you can get really set into like, okay, this is who I am. This is my space in the world. And, you know, maybe see a ceiling for yourself, not that the world's setting for you, but that you're setting in your own mind. And so I think it's important to know that you can always change your story. You can always, you know, make your ceiling in a different spot.
Yeah. Yeah. So how has that come about in your life and in your path?
Well, when I started Hammersmith, you know, I was really just making a job for myself. I had a baby at home and, you know, I just wanted my life to be somewhat easier than it was. And I started going down this path and as things evolved, I started to like have a different view of what it could be. And I started to have the vision of, you know, how we could service clients. And I was really inspired by a call with GoDaddy one day. They said to me, well, maybe you should put your developer on the phone. And I felt really talked down to. And I was like, okay, so if I feel talked down to by a technology company, who else does? And then that's when I kind of refocused the business, started looking at it from a support perspective of like really helping clients through this process and supporting them and empowering them and not not making it feel like a mystery to manage their website.
I love the idea in how every story does have value, but now you're in a unique spot where you are helping all of these clients tell their story through their websites, through website design, through making sure that they're, even through SEO, like that's getting the word out there on someone's brand, on their uniqueness, on who they are. I think it's interesting when you had your daughter, that was also its own pivotal moment. I understand that in the beginning you created a job for yourself, but I also think it's important to say what preceded that in terms of how you felt that moment once your daughter was born. What caused that major shift for you to go from working for someone to then creating a company where you worked for yourself?
Yeah, that was pivotal. I was working about a 35-minute drive from my house, and in an agency environment, high stress, really kind of one of those jobs that never stops. Like even when you're not on the clock, you're on the clock. Yeah. And I'd leave my house, I'd drop my daughter off at daycare, I would drive, I'd be there all day, I'd come home, and I just didn't have a lot to give at that point.
Yeah.
And I could really tell, I could tell my home situation wasn't going to be in a positive place if I continued down that path.
For sure.
Because, I didn't have anything left in the tank when I got home. So it was hard for me to give back to my husband and to my daughter and be present and not be thinking about all the work that was happening.
Truly.
And at as my core values, if I think of what is most important to me, most people will say my family.
Sure.
But if you're actually living that, then you are making certain decisions to support that. And I realized I wasn't living in a way that supported what my core value was.
I love that. So, I love the awareness of that, though.
Yeah. So how long after you had your daughter did you decide to, did you go straight in to starting your business, or did you take some time for yourself?
There was no time for myself. I went part-time with my job and went to a contractor status so I could start to scale back without giving up all my income, and was able to kind of save up before I let that go completely. So she was about 10 months old.
Yeah.
I think I lasted about 10 months.
It's so interesting. That was the exact timeline with me and my corporate job.
Yeah.
Lila was 10 months old. It was like, I couldn't do it anymore. I felt like I was missing the moment. And it was just, we had tried creative ways. And that was when I was like, I'm home with her. I'm done. Yeah. That's incredible.
So then after the 10 months, then you quit. Did you immediately start your new business, or was there a pause there?
Well, Debbie, I'd actually always been doing my business. I started taking projects on the side, I think around 2004, 2005. So that helped actually because, I was taking I would take kind of just little freelance at night jobs. And so, I was kind of used to working from home. I was kind of used to, setting up the seeds of having this. And so I really just kind of sent out an email to everybody I'd worked with and said, I'm going to be doing this full time now if you need anything. And it just kind of organically grew. And I'd known a graphic designer that basically was like a year ahead of me and in starting his own business and walking away. And so he immediately started feeding me some jobs, and that helped. And we actually still work together to this day, which is super fun.
I love that.
And then you said, though, like the first few years, it was really just a job. Like it wasn't about trying to grow it into something. Why in those first few years, what was the reasoning for it just being there instead of something bigger? Or talk to us about that transition that you went through when you decided, okay, it's time for me to go all in and actually.
Yeah. I think it was twofold. I think, my focus was, when you have a child under the age of 2, your focus is
survival.
I was just going to say survival.
Yes.
I don't know. I think it was getting older. I think it was kind of starting to see a different vision of myself. I think I've mentioned to both of you, I'm really into kind of personal development and geek out there. And so I just started to have a different vision and, wanted to create. I didn't want to be solely reliant on my husband. I wanted to produce and do something more. And then as I started getting a little bit more success, I brought on an employee. It just started to have a bigger vision for it. But it was really the decision to okay, I am going to do this, and that was, I think, the most pivotal part. I think the seeds were kind of growing for a while. And then, I think I remember sitting on the front porch with my husband and actually verbalizing, this is what I'm going to do. This is how many clients I'm going to have. And this is, how I'm going to do it. Yeah. And, I think it's just making that decision. Yeah. And once I decided that this is what I was going to do, I was on the path because I believed it at that point.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that. That had to have been, I'm sure that wasn't an overnight decision, right? There was probably a lot of, you said you're very into kind of personal development and personal growth. So what got you into the mindset, or what were maybe some of the struggles? Because I think there's a lot of people out there that may have a very similar story and maybe fighting those demons that are keeping them from making that a big step. So what were some of the struggles that you had to go through to be able to get yourself over that?
Okay, this is going to sound really dorky.
No such thing. No such thing.
But I read this book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself.
Oh.
And it was all about the story you tell yourself and the beliefs that you kind of believe about yourself based on how you talk to yourself. And that really illuminated for me, really some bad habits I had mentally, if, telling myself I wasn't good enough, or I can't walk in that circle, and, I can't be a part of that. That's too good for me. I had some of these beliefs that I would just, that were just ingrained from way back. And so I really started being more conscious of that and really starting to rewrite that story I was telling myself, and starting to see, how I could take this to the next level, how I could grow my team, how I could have more clients.
Yeah, I love that. I think you and I always talk about how so much of one own's path is about mindset change and being able to identify, which is something that is hard to do. It's hard to sit and say, okay, wait a minute. I'm my own worst enemy in this. I'm the one that's telling me I can't do it. No one else is saying that.
Right.
And even so, sometimes you're in life, people are telling you can't do it. And then you start to believe it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You start telling yourself and saying those things they must be right, And so you don't give yourself the courage to try something new. But you were able to identify that, and to say, whoa, wait a minute,
I honestly think of mindset as important as getting exercise and what you eat. I feel like kind of constantly working on that is essential, or at least it's essential for me.
Yeah. And do you feel like that's something that is a daily exercise that you have to do? Or is it, do you find that you've created kind of consistency in that, or is it still a struggle?
It's still a struggle. I aspire to journal every day and meditate, but do I actually do that every day? No.
Yeah.
But I always think about it. I've worked with a coach for several years now. And that helps kind of keep me on the right track, or kind of realign when I feel like I'm getting a little off course, or leaning into some bad habits.
Did you hire your coach as a business coach, or did you truly hire as a personal coach?
As a personal coach, really,
it all spills over. But
she's a mindset coach, basically.
Yeah. When you first got intrigued by personal development, I am so curious. What was the first foray into that world? Where were you in the moment of recognizing, okay, I'm gonna try this on for size? Or did you what was the impetus of it?
I'm trying to remember.
No, fair enough.
I mean, that was the first book I'd ever read that was kind of in that vein.
genre. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I think just because I had so much, I felt like it did create a major shift for me.
Yeah.
That then I kind of wanted more of that Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Right.
You saw the power of it. You saw the ability to shift
And do
it.
you feel, as of today, is that something that, do you continue to digest that content in terms of whether it's via books or podcasts?
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some standouts for you? Like personal favorites, things that, that book in particular, I'm ready to go read it now. I mean, that's
right?
amazing. But what are some other pieces or people that have really influenced that part of your journey?
Yeah. I mean, I really like Brendan Burchard, the high performance habits guy. I could listen to him talk for a long time.
Yep.
I mean, everybody likes Ed Milet. Who's really great too.
He is great.
Yeah.
I would say those are probably my go-tos.
Yeah.
Mostly, but the coach I work with, we talk a lot about journaling and like how important it is to like just clear your mind.
Yes.
And what she calls it, like sweeping, just clean up after the day.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's like a brain dump. You're just like, okay, let me get this out and move it. That is an important piece. How has that affected the relationship with your daughter? Like raising a child and knowing the importance of mindset and knowing the importance of personal development. How has that influenced your parenting?
She's 13. I think she's pretty annoyed with me.
That's 13. Yes, exactly.
Everything mom says.
I mean, I'm definitely not perfect. And sometimes I do beat myself up for like things I say when I'm parenting. But I think, aware of like, I don't want her to get certain stories stuck in her head.
Sure.
So I try to be cognizant of how I talk to her and like the things I say.
Yeah.
And just rephrasing them instead of, I don't want her to have beliefs about herself from what I've said.
What you've said, other than positive ones.
Other than positive ones.
Interesting.
So
I think
it's hard to do all the time.
Of course it is. Well, first of all,
like, listen.
Yes, mine's 20 now. And I say that we all are moms sitting here. We do our best, but that is the humanness of parenting. I mean, we aren't going to say
no one gets out alive.
No, I mean, I used to tease my daughter, be like, just take it to your therapist because tell Oprah, like whatever, it's all good. But there's something very powerful, I think, about our generation of moms, meaning us being moms, that we are speaking differently to our children than necessarily how we were spoken to. And it's not a negative about how our parents spoke to us per se, but there is this, I think a lot of times we took for granted that we need to hear those things from a very young age. It's not when they're in their teens or getting ready to go to college. It's like it starts young. It's that constant help of helping direct how they need to approach their mindset. And it doesn't necessarily come out that overt, but I know that we've been speaking to our kids differently and empowering them in different ways because we are trying to make sure that it's not everybody gets a trophy mentality. It's more about really empowering them to make good decisions and be able to talk kindly to themselves and to others, knowing that words do have power, right?
It is. It's about honoring themselves. So, I mean, I would say the one thing that I've tried to do is if she is saying something like self-sabotage,
yes,
then I say, well, if you were a friend, a best friend to yourself, and you gave her this issue, what would she say? Like, talk to yourself as if you're your own best friend.
That's right. And the words change.
Because then the empathy is different.
It is.
We're harder on
Absolutely.
ourselves than anyone else is.
All day long.
Absolutely.
All day long.
And that's why I think, your journey to discover this power behind professional development and personal development and podcasts and books is so important for anyone who would, I say, classify as a high achiever, a business owner, really anyone, our children, and all the way through college. It really applies to anyone because we are in a world or a society today that I think is like, it's a difficult world to live in. And we're constantly being put in front of social media, screen time. This world is much more connected than it used to be when we were kids, because you couldn't just pick up a phone and see what your friends were doing. You couldn't just get online and see what your competitors are doing.
Right.
You could, you had to write letters to communicate, right? It wasn't instant. And now I think it's started to take away from, it's distracting. And maybe 20, 30 years ago, without these types, I'm sure there were other things that were distracting. But today, for us to continue to pursue success, pursue being business owners, pursue trying to be the best mom and the best wife and all of this above, there's so many things coming at us that if we don't take time to just like pause and fill our own tanks and however that is, and find what that method is to kind of calm you down and rebalance yourself and put yourself back in harmony, no wonder people are, just burn out and, not really excited or fulfilled in life, So I think it's an important part of what you do to be able to have that and that tool.
Yes.
And for parenting too, anything like you brought it up with today's technology. I mean, I think as parents, anything we can do to combat narcissism and knowing that the world's not all about you and, taking care of yourself, but also honoring your community and your role in the world.
That's right.
Is part of our job, and I hope most parents realize that.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know how many do, but I think that's important. That it is. I think I guess as my kids are, because my boys are 13 or 12, almost 13. As I'm seeing them grow into these young men. And they're so naive to what's actually going on in the world, and it's that balance of how much should they know versus how much you start dripping in.
Sure.
But to your point, they're at an age now where I do feel like that is starting to become very important to be like, listen, you need to go see why we are where we are. And you need to appreciate what your father and I have done to get us to where we are. But you also need to appreciate that not everyone's path is this way. And that does not mean they're not happy. That's another thing. It's like, just because we live, and it's same with your business and all this, just because of where we are, doesn't mean that someone has to have what we have to be happy. In fact, there are probably people out there that are much happier with much less. So that lesson, I think, is really important for them to understand, that it doesn't matter what you have. It's about,
who you are.
It's about who you are and how you contribute to the world,
Absolutely.
So this will be a little bit of a segue that doesn't really go very well, but I wanted to get back on talking through kind of your transition from building your business, right? And taking that big leap, right? I love this story that you have shared with us. And it's about kind of this whole idea that you have to take a risk.
Yes.
So that is, I think, something that I would love for you to share with us on that, and how that kind of framed how you took this big leap and started your business.
So I was given the opportunity I had a contact that was working at a tech firm in San Francisco, and I'd worked on a project with another guy at that company, and they had referred me. And so they asked me to put together this proposal for this really big project, working with a large company, putting together kind of a front end interface for their marketing department. And at the time, it was me, one other employee that helped me manage clients, and a VA. And that was the team. And so really, it was probably more than I could bite off, but I saw it as a huge opportunity. And I thought I just had to shift, like, I'm going to go for this. And so they asked me for a proposal. I did that. They wanted a real contract. I hired an attorney. It came back many times with like red ink all over it. And I was like, I feel like I felt super inexperienced, but I just kept trudging along. And I'll never forget one day my contact called and he goes, just one more question. We're real close on this, but how big is your team? And I was like, but I kind of knew it was coming. And I just said, There's 2 of us full time, but we have an extensive list of contractors. We're growing every day. And, I think because I said it with confidence and I believed it. And I'd had experience with big clients. When I worked at the agency, I worked on the Subway and Disney account and Target. And I kind of at that point was more seasoned. I needed to lean into like own my skills and I knew I could probably pull together the resources to make it happen. Yeah. It took like 6 months. There's many times I thought in my head, this is not going to happen. And then one day, I was like Friday, it was like, I think it was before Memorial Day weekend, and check my email one last time and sign contract on it. I couldn't believe it.
Oh my gosh. What a feeling.
It was like definitely something I just kind of had to keep believing, keep trying, and just, know I could do it. And in the end, it came together pretty seamlessly and worked out well. And then it was a business that was a pandemic casualty, but it worked. It went for like 3 years before that. And so it was definitely a learning experience.
Yeah. Well, I think this whole, you explained it to us as, you take the risk or you lose the chance.
I knew that was my moment.
Yeah.
And to elevate my perception, then I had this project to talk about when I was at networking events. Sure. I had this project to talk about with other clients. And I could think of myself differently because I'd done this project as our company had like done this. Yeah. And so, it kind of gave me evidence in my mind that I am this other. I am kind of this different level, and it really helped like propel us in many ways, technically, and in sales and in our resources. And so, if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't taken the risk or lost the chance, who knows where I'd be? Yeah, who knows what we'd be doing now?
Yeah. Have you found that happens more like now that was a big moment, that was a big chance, that was an opportunity that was presented to you and you had the courage and you went for it, and that felt really big, and it catapulted you into your new kind of trajectory with your business. But as a business owner and as you've grown and there's been pivots and, okay, should I hire people? Should I not? Should I open another office in another state or should I not? Right? Like there's all of these things that come at you, right? Do you feel like you're still given those, you still feel like that same moment is like, okay, I've got to either, here's a chance, here's an opportunity.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Actually, this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Like all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that, I'm much less risk averse now. I'm way more confident now. And so I don't think of if, I think of how. Like not if I should do this, but how do I do it? Yeah. Like, and I start like putting together the puzzle. Okay, this is what we can do. Like this is how we can make this work. This is who I need to bring on. Yeah. I'm also a lot less hesitant to hire. Someone told me once, like, I had a coach and he said, through this group I was in, he said, you're not paying a $50,000 salary or a $6,000 salary. You're just committing to $5,000 a month for 2 months. I'm like, sure. But that's like easier to swallow. And I think, okay, I'm taking on a $60,000 salary for someone. Right. No, I'm taking on $5,000 a month for 2 months, like.
Yep. Yeah. Just baby steps. Like, so think of it, reshift the perspective, right?
Yeah,
right.
Total reframe.
And reframe it. That's a better way to put it. But so that's interesting. And so, you're saying now, like even to this moment, even to this weekend, you're still put in these situations where you're like, okay, this is an opportunity that I need to figure out, not if, but how.
How, yeah.
Yeah. So do you feel like, or what are some things that you do? Because I know I've been presented with those types of things in my pivots and changes. And how does it come across to you? Like, is it when like, okay, how do you make sure that it's fitting into the direction you're wanting to go?
I mean, obviously, if it doesn't fit into our like core competencies or zone of genius, I'm not going to put us in a situation that we cannot deliver. But if it's just a challenge with resources or time or space, and there is a way to make it happen, I will go for it.
That makes sense.
Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to always have my team in a place where they can be successful. I don't want to be set up for failure. So you have to have that filter to start.
Yeah.
But those are also the things I'm going after, that's what I'm trying to attract, or those projects, those possibilities.
That's your role now, right?
That's
it's like
my
your position as you're growing this business is to find those things that can push you farther, grow you a little bit more, right? Get you more exposure. And
it's different now than it has been in the past.
Yeah.
It's like
it's ever evolving.
And that's what's kind of fun about being a business owner is like your role's never exactly the same.
That's right.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
And that sometimes means in the same day.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You wake up in the morning thinking it's going to go one direction. And then by the end of the day, you're going, wow,
that is a journey we took today. Exactly. If you could go back now and go back in time and give yourself the advice that you really needed to hear at the time, what would you go back and say? Especially, one, it could be when you first made your move west, but I think it's more about when you were in that corporate job, when you're in agency work, working so hard, not having any time to fill your cup. What would you tell her at this time?
Where would I start?
Right? Right?
I think it's like knowing you can design the life you want. That you're not just on one track. That track can veer off at any time and go a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a powerful place. Do you find that you have discovered great empathy for others who are going through change? You can see people going through when they're on that precipice, when you're like, it's coming. They're about to make the fork in the road is there. And you can see people decide, right? Which way are they going to go? How are they going to do it? Do you feel that you've become more nimble and not feeling like it has to be linear? You've obviously incorporated that into your business by constantly evolving, constantly going after different opportunities. But do you feel that also carries over in your personal life, just in the day-to-day life stuff, raising a child, having a marriage, going through, you live in go back and forth between different places. Like, do you feel that overall you've just been able to become more nimble to what changes are thrown your way and not looking at them as these massive moments, but more like this is all part of the deal. Like, this is how it is. We just keep moving, keep adjusting, evolving, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I see life in a more fluid way now. I think, when you get out of, doing the 9 to 5 and you have more ownership over your life.
Yes.
Then that comes with the territory, you just start to break down those barriers in your mind and you're like, okay, yes, I can do this. And also probably, age helps too, and like a little more financial stability, like
experience.
There were other, when I was, in my 30s working at this agency, I had to consider, my living expenses.
Exactly.
To make big changes. But,
that's right.
So I mean that definitely impacted me more than, it's you're more tentative to make rock the boat.
Exactly.
But I think with a healthy dose of confidence, even if you're in that situation, you can rock the boat.
I was going to say a healthy dose of confidence is key.
It absolutely.
Is so key. Act as if, right?
Right.
Absolutely. I love that.
So how would you say over time your perception or definition of success has changed?
Well, I think my definition of success is the amount of joy in your life. It's really nothing more than that.
Yeah.
At least that's how I see it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that the fulfillment that you have in your everyday, what's around you, the people around you, how you're giving back to the world, how you're, contributing, right? As you're going through this journey.
For sure.
Because we all know that success is not, it's not an end point. It's a journey that we're all on. It is a
journey.
So I love that. I love that success is about the joy in your life.
Any other, whether they're personal development or not, I know we've touched on that today. Any other books, podcasts, tools that you use in just feeding your mind on a daily basis? Anything else that jumps out at you?
I did a trial subscription of Brendon Burchard's Growth Day app. And every day they have this little video you can watch. It's about 15 minutes or audio.
Yep.
It's called The Daily Fire. It's like a little motivational talk you get in the morning.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah, I love that. A little dose.
It's a little dose, just a little dose. I like that. I mean, I think honestly, just pen to paper is very powerful. Journal prompts are really good. Just to, I'm a big reader, so I like lots of books. But
any favorites right now that you've been resonating with?
Well, I'll say my favorite, I love fiction. So my favorite book this year was The Women by Kristen Hanna, which was amazing and a story of strength in lots of ways.
That's amazing.
It's kind of about the women who served in Vietnam as the nurses, and then how they were treated after they got back, and they're kind of processing what they went through. And it's a really, really good book. So
amazing.
I loved that one. I'm in a book club that we just read, like a business book club. We read Die with Zero, and it's all about managing, thinking about your money before retirement. A lot of people just squirrel away till the end.
Yeah.
But he makes the case that enjoying your money before retirement, when your health starts to decline and you don't necessarily have the energy, and giving to your kids when you can see them enjoy it versus when you're gone.
Yeah.
So
true.
It's an interesting,
I
thought
love
that was
that.
very
So that was called Die with
interesting.
Zero.
Die
I
with
like
Zero.
that one. I like that one.
I like this.
So
Okay, good. We can add some more to our list.
Yeah.
We do believe leaders are readers, so it's just great to be able to have all these different options that we've been learning from our guests over time. It's really exciting. It's very exciting.
Well, thank you so much, Heather. This was a super fun episode. I think that we've learned a lot just to kind of hear your perspective and your journey and your story. And how else can our audience connect with you if they have questions on maybe website design, or maybe they just want to reach out to you and learn a little bit more about you and your story?
Sure. Well, the best way, I guess, is through my website, which is hammersmithsupport.com. There's a book a Calendly invite on there. You can schedule a call.
I love that.
Or you can reach out via our contact form. I'm also on LinkedIn and Instagram and all the places.
All the places. Oh, I'm so glad. I really appreciate you. We appreciate you taking the time today to just sit with us. It's been so good to connect with you.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thanks for joining us. If you loved this episode and know of someone who would find value in it, please spread the word and share it with a friend. We are passionate about redefining success, and it would mean the world if you could help us get our mission out to as many people as possible. Please take a moment to write a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. You can also hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Connect with us on Instagram at Success Resequencing Project or via our website at www.successresequencing.com. We'd love to hear your story.